working to your quarterback's strengths and putting together an offensive game plan or an offensive playbook. Obviously the CFL is a little different because, in high school, you may have the same quarterback for 1 or 2 years. Hopefully, I know in the pros, there's a lot of, changeover as well, obviously.
Right.
But if you're working with a quarterback, even just taking it from, a 1 year at a time standpoint, you identify some strengths in your quarterback. How much do you tailor the offense directly to those strengths? Is it a starting point for you, or is it really kind of the goal where you want to get to is really playing to their strengths as much as possible?
You would think that the years that we've been here in Hamilton, when I first got here, I was here. We've been here for 4 years, and we have had multiple quarterbacks that have to get ready to play. So we haven't had that 5 years, 7 year vet. We would be in regards to the high school where you're only having a 2 years. The first year in 2013, we had Hank, and out of the 4 years that we've been here, we've gone to the Grey Cup with 3 different quarterbacks, right? And every year we've gone to the champion or the Eastern Final with 4 different quarterbacks. So first year was Hank. The second year was Zach Collaros, and he was a young guy, came in, played in 2014, came back in 2015, and he was having an unbelievable start of the season, and then he had his ACL. So then we started up, and then finally Jeremiah Masoli was in there, took us to the Eastern Final. Braden was there; he was there in 2015 as well, and then I came back in 2019. And Jeremiah was here. And so we worked together, and he was having a great start of the season, but then an injury happened. And then Dade Evans came in, and we got a chance to have success with him and collectively as a team. So we certainly feel that, and to me, it hasn't been, where we can just build into one guy and that's it. You can't. But to answer to that question, the first thing you have to do is that you have to, and it's not science, you have to have an intimate relationship with your players, and it's got to be grounded in trust, and you have to spend time and know them and learn them. I think the other thing that we have done with those guys that have come in is I've made sure, like for me, with those players, they've had other film. So I always went back to their college days as well. Like with Dane, I went back and I watched when the injury happened, I watched over half the season of Tulsa's games when he was playing. I wanted to see exactly what he did and exactly what success he had. So I wanted to have some foundation of what he's comfortable with, right? And then you also have to me, have a keen eye of critical analysis on what you're doing, right? Why are the plays really working, and why are they successful, or why are they failing? Truly, not just because we can superficially look over something and say it's not working because this guy is not making the play or he didn't listen to what I said. It's a really in-depth analysis to see if it's really working. So we do that. I think your offensive system has to be adaptable and flexible to do what Zach Collaros does and combine it with Jeremiah and Jeremiah to Dane. No, because each one of them have their strengths and things that they like and particularly like and do a great job of. So you want to be able to make them feel comfortable. How are you going to get that? How are you going to get that quarterback in rhythm? That's how you have to ask that. Now, what's rhythm? Well, let me tell you, rhythm includes like the call coming in, personnel coming in, all that. You got to make them feel comfortable, not just the plays, but how you calling the plays. Are they coming in at the proper time where he feels comfortable verbalizing the play? Does he have enough time on the play clock and he's not in any panic mode, especially when a new guy comes in? We want to make sure And then of course, what is his pressure answers? Because when the new guy comes in, I am telling you the mentality changes, and that defensive coordinator is bringing the heat constantly. So we want to create rhythm in the passing game for them, and how we do that is through multiple levels. I just don't do it from thinking of what he's successful in regards to what he likes from a play schematic sense, but I'm even thinking of it in the way of huddle, how we're going to line up against the clock, pre-snap, his cadence, all those things, they're going to make him feel comfortable. That's why it comes back to building an intimate relationship with him. And it's got to be grounded in trust, because those are the things that you have to give and take, because there's always going to be adaptation. Because it certainly happened this year with, or the previous year with Dane, to see what he likes and get to know him and really have a keen eye of what's been successful or what I might like and love. But guess what? He doesn't love that. He just likes it. Eliminate it. Or what do we need to improve upon for him to be able to see, put it in the back burner as he gets his rhythm? That's a long-winded answer, but I think that's one of the ways that we're certainly going to apply to his strengths. But we have to make sure that we're seeing it with unbiased eyes.
Yeah, I think, it's a good point. And I think back to the situation we were in, a couple of years ago, Braden, with Lions, where we were fortunate. We had three, very capable quarterbacks. And fortunately, they had some shared strength. They were all, pretty athletic, and from an arm talent standpoint, gave us some options. We weren't super limited. It's not like, one guy was a great, underneath rhythm passer, but wasn't mobile, and one guy was a deep ball guy who could run. They shared some DNA that way. But there was a few concepts that I know I really liked that I probably stuck with too long, or I knew one of them really liked. So it was a big part of the game plan, but we were rolling all three, trying to get those guys all a chance, to go to the next level. And, there'd be times where I'd make a play call that I really liked, but I look back at the film and go, I knew he didn't like that. Like I knew, I knew that sometimes it's not even mistakes. It's just, I knew you weren't going to take the deep shot there. You didn't like that one. I knew you were going to check it down. And that's on us, right? Like that's right. On me for putting that kid in that situation. That's what came to mind as soon as you were going through the answer in that question. Anything else you want to add to that one, Braden?
Yeah, no, I think, Coach, you said it. I think when you build a strong relationship on the foundation of wanting to be better and wanting to be great, I think that'll do wonders for you. And when you're going to get the buy-in you need to be successful. And players want to be coached and want to be coached successfully. So it comes down to that. And if that trust is there and they know you're trying to get them better and you're in it together, it'll make such a big difference.
I agree with you. Like I said, it's got to be grounded in trust. And also it goes both ways, that you have the best interest, and to be able to break it down in such a way to see what they do naturally well. I think it's important, and some of the things that, when I say critical analysis, what I mean is all their throw, from let it be throws to the left, to let it be a certain person, certain personnel that they're struggling with to throw to. And because there's got to be, you have to fast forward, not just the relationship with yourself, but it's the relationship with the receivers, and understanding the intimate relationship that they have, and understanding of reading their body language of coming in and out of cuts, and how they like to run routes, and what they're, putting them in a position to be successful as a receiver. So you have to make sure that you're putting all that in, and especially it would, like, I'm using Dane for an example, because he came in right, we were right in the middle of the season, or in the first third of the season. So that's all the things that you have to think from a practice, and you're orchestrating practice, and you have to see that and make sure that you're willing not to just give a shove up, we missed the throw, or we missed the block, or we did this. It's got to be a really deep level research on what he does and what he likes.
This is a question that just came to my mind along the same topic. And, we get a lot of guys that are athletes first, and they're, they love the quarterback position. Maybe they've played 3 or 4 sports, their whole life. Maybe they've only started playing football in high school, and So they, for them, their trump card is, their ability to run with the football. And for their development, we're trying to help them grow as a passer. I could see it maybe the same thing. You got a guy with a ton of arm talent, right? So he loves taking the deep shot. And for his development, he's got to learn to, read things out beyond his first read and stuff like that. How do you kind of go about, you obviously in the pros, you're getting guys with great strengths, but it's all relative. How do you go about, playing to people's strengths, but still kind of trying to expand them? You talk about having their best interest at heart, right? How do you try and expand them as a player? So not get them to do things they're not comfortable with, consistently in games, certainly, but push them to develop parts of their game that you think they're capable of developing while still, keeping them in situations that, maybe they're more confident. And maybe that's more of like an in practice type question. How do you go about getting guys to, push their comfort zone while still being confident with what they're doing?
No, I think that I really, that's a great question. One of the things that, in order to do that, is I have to see exactly why he's struggling with it and understanding why he's doing it. And when that usually happens, it's because I didn't usually layer the intent of the play, right? And the expectations of the play, of exactly what we're looking for in this regard. And it's about communication. That's the first part of it comes to mind, is the actual understanding of that particular play, that what are we trying to exactly accomplish from the formation, from the stretches of that we're doing with the receivers, all those types of things. I think the next layer to that is be able to physically get him ready and prepared for on that. And that's from the drills, the progression drills, or anything else from the eye fixes that he's not seeing. And the best coaching that you can do is really that I've learned as I progressed, is just not to say anything, and let them explain it. Let them, and what I say to them is this: coach me up, or tell me what you're seeing. Right? Tell me exactly what you're seeing. Take me through the play as I rewind it. I want to know why. Go ahead. And I just sit there and listen. I don't say a word. I'll jot my notes down, but now I'm understanding what he is seeing as a player. And that's important. That's where I know it's like a doctor. I can now look at, all right, here, I saw the symptoms, but now I'm actually hearing the patient, and I'm actually hearing what he is saying. And that was hard for me early on in my career, so I just shut up a little bit better now, and I let them talk, and I realize and see where I can help them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I think there's always, as a teacher, we talk about this all the time. There's what was said and what was understood. And it's so easy as the person at the front of the room talking, hey, we said this, right? But until you know what's actually been understood, you're only hearing kind of your side of that learning relationship, right? And it's hard for you to help someone that you don't understand their perspective. And it comes back, like Braden, like you said, echoing coach's words on trust, right? I think that being able, that the athlete hearing from you, hey, I want to know where the confusion is or where the hesitancy to try this is coming from. I think that creates a much more open space, as opposed to being, hey, I said I wanted A, B, and C. How come we're only getting to B? All of a sudden that's more accusatory versus,
Right.
open, communication, which is, the lines between those things can be so, faint as a coach, right? Like you as a coach are never perceiving what you're doing as being either accusatory or, making assumptions, right? We all assume we're not making assumptions. And ultimately that puts you in a tough spot. As the coach, if you're not hearing what the athlete's actually experiencing.
Yeah, I think you have to be authentic, and they have to understand that do you truly have the best interest for that individual? And I don't think that changes from high school to college to pro. I don't believe it. I care about these individuals as much as the high school coaches care about their individuals. They're other than I have 4 sons here in the house, and I have, probably about 25, 26 of other sons over here. And we're all sharpening iron together, and we're both all going to challenge together, where iron sharpens iron, we always say. And we're here, specifically I'm here, is through the process of becoming a better man. We're going to win. And then ultimately through the process of winning, we become better men, because those things, the game of football just reveals it, right? It just reveals all those things. And to be able to have those relationships and to really understand their trust or have that trust to be able them to communicate and say, I don't feel comfortable with this because I'm not doing this. And it usually goes back from also talking and communicating through their eyes, right? And also had to be able to verbalize those things. Can they verbalize their reads? Can they verbalize their eye fixes in a systematic way?
So, Coach, I guess the last question we have here is on, obviously in pro football, but in any level, you only have so much time. You only have so many reps to give up. In my time with you, I think I counted today, there was 8 different quarterbacks that had started in the 2 years that I got to spend time with you.
Yeah.
So, how do you help prepare those guys? We've talked on a bunch of different things already on, from having a good teaching progression that you're teaching the entire room, to even, the trust factor when that moment happens. But maybe to recap, whether that's in practice or things that you're doing in the room to help those quarterbacks, whether that's, your second, third string guy or a guy on practice roster.
It's not easy because you're spending all their time and things because you have to get the immediate starter prepared. But there are some things that we do to keep them mentally on edge all the time, to probably and really to keep them stimulated. We've talked about some of those things, so I'll repeat them. But then I'm going to add some things that we do, I think specifically that I like. Obviously, you're getting those guys prepared on the field per se in regards to the practice field, getting them reps and the progressions, and let it be during practice in regards to during special teams, let it be after practice, and those kinds of things to do your progression-based teaching, putting the receivers where they need to be. Another way to do it is to try to give them extra reps is like every play, every team play, every Skelly play, we make sure we have everybody cleared out of everything. But the only people that are behind the offense are the rest of the quarterbacks. And I expect them to do exactly what the starter's doing. So they're in their stance. They're doing everything right behind the quarterback. And it's 10 yards behind, but that end zone view that's way up here, I'm watching that too. So they're in actually the picture. They're taking their drops. They'll take their drops and they'll throw, or you'll see them throw and they'll point going through it, who they're throwing to, right? So that's another way and all the quarterbacks are doing that. They're right behind it and we're getting ready to rock and roll. So they at least get the visualization of going through that practice, right? So we do that. So I don't want the other quarterbacks on the sidelines. They're going to be behind there and they are exactly taking a snap or simulating taking a snap and taking the correct drop and the actual read. And now, what does that mean in practice or and when we're in the classroom? Well, when we're watching film, right? Not probably like we'll look at it and you could see, where the starter. Well, obviously the starter that's playing, he's throwing the ball over here. And if I have one of the guys throwing the ball over here, I'm asking them, or how did you get to that? I'm actively stimulating them and say, well, I saw, hey, right here, you took a big 3 and a hitch. It's not a big 3 and a hitch. It's a controlled 3 and a hitch. So they are accountable under that area. And I think that's a great way to do that in order to get them prepared and ready. Now, some of those things, that we talked about before is to keep them also stimulated in the classroom, where you're not just talking to the starter. They're in there and you're preparing them as much and making sure that they have to, and I keep saying it, verbalize what, because if they can verbalize it, they're visualizing it, and then they can get it out, right? And the faster they can process and make their decisions, right? So during the classroom, I'm always keeping them in there and making sure that they're involved in the conversation and asking them what they see, but also say, hey, where what's the read on this? What's the read on that? Even with our, like this past year, let's say Hayden, I'm saying, Hayden, what's your read on here? And how he needs to verbalize it. Well, it's a control 3 and a hitch, either or to here. We're going to reset to there and we're going to finish there. Very good. Where's your eye fix? Well, it's going to be, so he's got to lay that down. Right. And then the other thing that we talked about is using Let It Be the Checkers and the Football Men and other spatial awareness, where it's not just on the board. We're on the board like, hey, you can arbitrarily put this guy out in no man's land. And everyone knows what I mean by that. Have gone on the board where you really don't know where that guy's supposed to go. But on the actual, checkers and the way we're using our football men, they have to move it around. And that's another way to stimulate their learning. And we do that. That builds competence, right? And that builds trust. And we make sure that we ask that guy, that second and third string quarterback in front of the offensive team questions. We definitely, because again, you're not just making sure that you're getting just a quarterback ready. The team needs to hear that. The team needs to hear it and making sure that they have confidence in him, that he knows exactly what he's doing, right? So we make sure that they hear it in those meetings. Simple as that. Calling on him, making sure he does that. The other thing that we've done is, have that backup quarterback give a report. He's got to give a report. I want to hear, listen, Hayden, you're in charge of second and medium, right? You're in charge of it. I want to hear exactly what it is, because I'm going to give you a chance to talk in front of the group for 5 minutes. There you go. I want to know everything that they're going to do. This week quarterback, I want to know what their pressure secret and how are we going to see it. And you have a 5-minute presentation on it. Actively get them involved. Actively know that they have skin in the game, that they're invested. Can we get them invested? And they're just not back there saying, well, I'm not going to play. When is it ever going to happen? Well, no, you can't rest a day. There's not going to be a day that you can come into work and not be knowing that you're going to be asked a question or an ability to perform. And that's what that backup role has to have, because you never know when he's going to be forced to perform and produce. So we try to do that daily for that person, produce and perform. So that's kind of how we do it.
Oh, that's a great answer. I mean, I think the one thing is the accountability and the trust with I've always found from a backup perspective is you really need to, his teammates need to trust him and need to be accountable and really build that trust. We're talking about trust with their coach. That trust needs to be there with his teammates, and that is so underappreciated from that role, I think. And I think the ones that I've always been around have been fantastic at building trust with his teammates. And again, I guess the other thing is all these different teaching tools are so important and take advantage. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's so it can be the dollar store checkerboard.
Something.
Yeah.
We used poker chips there, Brado, a couple of years ago.
Chips.
Last time we did poker chips with a I forget how I got the line on there. I think it was just a sticker.
I probably got him right here. You see him back there?
Oh yeah, the Football Man. There you go.
Yeah,
that was a new one. Braden told me about that the other day. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. We've done that and really forcing those guys to think, not just on the board, but all the dimensions, that space that they're aware of. And I think that's important for them. And, and that's, you know, along with their teammates. That's why we've had success at the quarterback position here.